we can start with the presentation I prepared today. And the purpose of this presentation is just to walk you through the submission process and also highlight some kind of recurrent um, kind of like big question marks that we have been like shifting and like changing every year. So we can like accommodate as many, application forms are not easy. So we have been like changing the form to be more clear, to provide more information about what we are expecting, from each question that we have in the application. We're trying to give examples. And we are also trying to organize the information we receive from you in the best and most accessible way we can. So I'm just going to start with a reminder from last year. This was Being Seen last year at 32 Lisgar. Was an amazing show. And again, we had so many amazing artworks. And I wish that we could include more artists. We had 33 artists in the juried exhibition. And I hope this year that we get more applications and that we are able to accept more artists. So submitting artworks for Being Seen, how do you go through the selection process as an artist, like before we see it? So one thing I would consider as a curator and as an artist too, um, that before submitting any application, I would look at the entire body of my work, um, share like some of it with others, have others look at it, and then if there is within that body of work, if there is a specific theme or a specific topic or a cause that I want to bring to Being Seen this year, then okay, I know where to focus. Um, I know that most of you produce new works, probably every year. And this can be like, you end up with a lot of artworks and you don't know which one would be successful. What are we really looking for as an organization? What are like the jurors looking for? And they change every year and they come from different backgrounds. They come from different fields in the sector. So some can be from like more like established galleries, bigger museums. Some of them can be just in commercial gallery businesses, or they can be just at university galleries. So it's really a mix and it's rotating. So I know it becomes like competitive every year. But again, like just like when you are looking at your work, at your body of work, um, like try to keep in mind that the jury are looking at a lot of applications, maybe over 100 applications in the period of a week. Um, so that is, like that's your opportunity to also visually um, impress them. So one of the first things I would really recommend that you just like ask yourself which artworks could be like more successful visually, but also conceptually, and how it's going to look in the exhibition space, right? So these are all things that any jury would think of and consider um, while selecting artworks. Um, and as I mentioned earlier, like if you want to share a body of work with a friend, with a curator you met before, or another fellow artist, I think this is important. Don't feel like shy. Don't shy away from it. And even if I shouldn't maybe saying this, but if you wanna like share it with me or like just like ask me like questions about the process. If a certain work would fit the space or would it be problematic. So like if you are unsure about maybe the technicalities of some of the artworks that you are submitting, then you can always email me and ask me questions. And then I will try to answer, like in a non-biased. I cannot tell you, if yes, this is a good work, it's going to be accepted or not, because this is actually the jury's job. Um, and the third, again, like back to the how to best represent your work to the jurors. One of the most important things is again like the visual impression. So what the jurors are looking at the first glance is the visual component. So visually, your work has to be compelling, attractive, not in terms, excuse me, not in terms of the quality, but more about like the representation. So be careful with the photographs you are submitting. Make sure that they are not blurred, they are not like losing some detail in a corner or something. I'm going to show examples later of what could be like a problematic or like a challenging image that the juror looks at, and what is a good image. Um, how many artworks in the application? You can submit up to 5 artworks. And these artworks could be individual artworks or they could be series. However, you need to be aware of the space limitation. So when we accept works, we have a maximum limit of size that we can allocate for each artist. But we also try to balance this with the number of artists we are accepting, which is really tied to the budget that we have each year. So it's a kind of like a circular connection between like how large the work or like how many works can we permit for each artist and how many artists are participating in the entire exhibition, um, versus like space and budget allocations. So I would say if you are willing to submit a series of artworks, um, just look at like the reasons, like give the jury a very strong explanation why this series has to go together and why does it have to have that much space. Okay, so this is something that can make your application stronger, and I'm going to talk about it later in detail. But again, in total, when you are submitting artworks, just consider the size of each artwork, consider the medium. Um, Ask yourself, what if the jury, accept they like 2 artworks from your submission, but when we put it in the gallery, like they don't really fit together, or they are very like different from each other. So think of again, like if you are submitting works, more than one work with like different themes, with different like visual content, how do you want these like exhibited together? Um, that's again, like there is a lot of flexibility around that. You can submit as, like as different artworks as you can. Um, but again, like think of if both, let's say if 2 artworks get accepted, do you wanna have them together? Do you wanna have them apart from each other? That would also help us in making a decision when we think of the exhibition layout. And as I said, like, yes, you can submit a series of artworks as one work, but again, consider the maximum limit of the space that we can allocate to each artist. So if you want to go really big, really huge, maybe reach out to me first, check in, like if this huge artwork would be okay. maybe it will, maybe it won't, then I will respond to you really based on very, very technical, what is doable in the space, what is not doable. Okay, the second slide, Liv here, our visual arts coordinator,
Hello.
will take over the slide until I have a little break here.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for being here. Um, yeah, so just as Fatma was saying, if you're submitting multiple works in a series, like a triptych, or a larger works, just make sure if it's a triptych, make sure that the photo that you have of them is like in the way that you would want them presented. And if they really have to be the three of them together in this way, make a good argument for why for the jury. Or if you're like, it's okay if just one of these is shown and it doesn't have to be in this triptych, then write about that as well. For audio and visual works, make sure that it's the entire file, not just, a sample. We want to hear what the entirety of the artwork will be. And make sure you give us the technical equipment requirements, like your tech specs, because that will also um, factor into which artworks we're able to exhibit in the space. And that's another thing that you could reach out to Fatma and I about, like, would this work in the space? Do we have technology for this? Is this like, am I dreaming too big with this, or is it okay? Um, don't submit any works in progress or incomplete works. We just want to see what we're going to get for the exhibition. Please don't submit anything that's already been in Being Seen, even if it was like 10 years ago. We have all the old catalogs, so we know what has been previously shown, and we want to see your new stuff. Anyways, we want to see what you've been working on recently, themes that have come up recently. And it's a good opportunity to share with the public and get feedback on your recent practice. Anything to add, Fatma?
Okay. Um, Yeah, I think that's like it's really important what you mentioned about the technical equipment for tech like or audiovisual works. It's really important because we might not have the budget or the equipment to show like specific works. So that would, like it would be good to communicate this with us early on so we are able to advise otherwise. So let's say if we cannot make that happen, so it's really important to reach out to us so we can confirm like, yes, okay, go ahead with submitting this, or we would advise like on submitting something else, or we can tell you what we can offer and then you make the decision if you want to go with that or if you will be able to sort out the equipment. So we would love to have that, like conversation and type of communication with you so we don't end up with anyone being frustrated or turned away um, for like very technical reasons. Yeah, and it could happen, unfortunately. Um, okay, the next slide is the photographs. So the way the jury looks at your applications, they have the PDF, the application form, but they also have access to the images that you upload to your application. So, one of the things that we did allow before that, or we mentioned before in the application, that take a picture of your artwork, kind of showing the size, like like try to show us the size of the actual work as much as you can. So I'm just gonna start with the image on the left. Um, this photo is definitely not like complete in terms of if you see like at the upper left corner, there is like this blurry reflective material that is not actually allowing us to see what's going on in that corner. So this is taking away from the work. This is kind of creating a barrier for the jury to see the work and to conclude like all of its see all of its components and elements. So try to avoid images with reflections. We're not asking for like super professional photos, but at least clear photos, not blurry, not reflective, showing as much details of the work as you can. And I'm gonna share like another successful example of when we ask for showing the actual size of the artwork, how like the background can actually help us as viewers like understand the size or kind of anticipate the size of the artwork. The second image here in the middle is a bit better. However, it's again like it's not showing the maybe like the colors have a little bit of a dark tone to it. Like I'm sure that this painting in real life it's much brighter than this. So again, consider lighting while you are taking photographs of your work. The other thing, okay, the last one here, this is this is really very problematic to have an image like this to the jury. First of all, the image is not complete, and it's not like maybe it's showing the actual size, but it's not really showing um, the artwork in its like proper viewing like format. So this is lying on the ground on the floor, and this is not how it's going to be in the exhibition space. So that's another thing. So maybe think what would be the closest, representation of this. It should be upright. It should be, like on a plinth. Then maybe use a photograph of it on a table or something. So these are just like, you know, really small details that can cause your application to be turned away and not like considered, because it becomes really confusing again for the jury to understand all like the elements in the work and how it's going to be represented in its like final shape. Um, this photo on the left here, so like this background is kind of like helping how helping like showing the artwork itself, as like showing as much as closer to like the actual size. But this is just like a quick example. If you are thinking of a background that would work with this, then yes, this can work. It's not distorting the image, it's not distorting the work. It's not like causing any kind of confusion. Although like the frame and the background are very close together in color, but like still we can see all of the details of the work and we can kind of conclude like how big it is. And then there is this image on the right side here, this one of like, like a very straightforward close up of the artwork. And this is also very acceptable. So like you don't have to, the images that you upload could be like this one. It doesn't have to show like the actual size. Let's say if it's in a frame and you are giving us the dimensions, you are giving us the frame requirements, then we can kind of imagine how big it's going to be. Uh, I'm going to move to the artist statement. Um, and this, I believe, is the most problematic kind of. We receive like a really wide range of different artist statements. Um, and as much as I understand that there is like a word limitation in the application, and it could be like quite difficult to put everything in 200 words or 500 words. but just like consider these points that I collected here. And sometimes a short artist statement could be much more powerful than a whole like page artist statement. So, first of all, if you want to talk about your artistic practice from a very like personal experience kind of perspective, if it's tied to topics of trauma, lineages, culture, language, historical um, references, this is all acceptable, but it shouldn't be the only aspect of your artist statement. So it is totally acceptable to mention that your artistic practice is based on so and so personal experiences. However, you have to back this up. You have to connect it to more of the ongoing general like contemporary art themes because they are already like connected. And then when you are making that connection in your artist statement, it gives the jury um, the impression and it convinces them that you are aware of what are like the topics that are going on. How are you connecting your personal and your very unique artistic practice to the larger um, art scene and to the larger, like on a global side, how are you connecting with other topics and themes? So making that connection, could be very simple. Try to use as simple language as you can. You don't have really to complicate or like theorize on things, but just, like use a reference, maybe just like refer to one thing, to one like bigger topic or to one bigger phenomena or something that you see like there is some kind of an interaction between your personal, like your artistic practice and this more general topic. Talking also about the process and the material, the medium that you are using in your work, it might be also very unique and very important to the jury to know about this. Because sometimes we see, like, for example, photographs that look amazing, right? But we don't know really the process of the printing of those photographs. So we need to know a little bit of like the magic of the process like or the making of the artwork. What kind of challenging medium are you using if you are using like if you're working with a challenging material, then that adds something to your artist statement and to your practice as well. Um, how do you consider representation of your artwork is also very important. And it shows a lot of seriousness and a lot of commitment to your work. Um, so talking about these a little bit more technical parts very briefly is also helpful to walk the jury through your process, through your work, because again, they're not looking only at the photographs or the images that you are submitting. They look at your artist statement and they look at your CV. They go to your website if you have any. So all of this is part of the entire process. Um, and then like if you are able to be more specific about how the artwork is going to be displayed, or if it's an interactive piece, then give the jury also a hint about this is how it will look like, or this is how it should be interacted with. Because sometimes with interactive works, it becomes a big hit, right? It becomes really a big thing and it makes a big difference. And like it in my opinion, it will motivate the jury to look more into it and consider this type of interaction as a unique thing to the work. And then kind of by the end, conclude or like kind of try to describe what is like really the ethos of the or the core of your practice, and how have you been working um like to develop that practice, and if something has shifted, if something has changed in your practice, then it is also important to mention in the artist statement. So for example, if you used to work with image-based work and then you moved to painting, so you need to mention this in the artist statement, and you need to kind of again briefly explain why this shift happened, and how does it add to your practice in general, and how does it feed your practice over the years. um and try to, like, in that part, kind of try to be like very straightforward, mentioning or like highlighting big shifts or like very, very crucial, aspects or elements in your practice. Um, then the style or like the voice that you are using, it could be descriptive, it could be poetic, but I would say in this type of application, and and like given that like there is a word limit, there is a limit to what the jury can take and process in such a short time. um Maybe keep it descriptive and just add one or two sentences that might be a bit more poetic. So if you feel your statement is like very dry, if it's like very descriptive and you're not really connecting with it, try just to insert like one or two sentences that has like a more poetic, a more like personal tone, where the jurors feel that you are actually speaking to them. Um, but again, without like losing totally the descriptive part, because sometimes we do receive very poetic artist statements, and then it becomes really um, like it puts a lot of labor on the viewer or on the juror to kind of make the connection on their own, and they might like make the wrong connection, or they might make like a long shot. They might go for a long shot and again like make the wrong connection between what you meant in your poetic description and what you actually are presenting like to them visually. Um, and I just want to mention that here for the artist statement, we did have a workshop with Daniela Senader about writing artist statement. So if you need access to the slides from that workshop, I'm happy to share it with you. So please reach out to me if you need access to that. Um, Next is the option of, like sharing more information about your work, or how do you share your website? If you don't have a website, what else do you want the jury um, to see? So just make sure that whatever the jury is viewing in terms of like additional information, that it adds or like it supports what you shared already as examples of your work in your application. And this is what I mean with like the visual identity or consistency, that you need to have a connection, a continuation. So use that opportunity to share more information. Um, Maybe if you have a website, for example, then link it, put the link to like a specific page on the website for a specific project that you want them to see. That will add to what you submitted in the application. If it's a social media, Instagram or Facebook, maybe write somewhere in the note, in like anywhere in the application, any notes in the application, that they can check so and so works, right? So again, this is your opportunity to give them a more general idea about your practice and what you have been doing as an artist. The portfolio in like a PDF format or something similar, like maybe just like a catalog of a previous exhibition or any material like that. When you share this, also think of the time. So don't the time that the jury spend on reviewing each application. So try again to be as specific as you can in giving them more information about certain works, or what do you really want them to see from your practice, from the other body of work. Um, Try as much as you can to make everything accessible and user-friendly. After you submit maybe the application, you usually receive a copy of it. If you have uploaded any links, make sure that the links are working. If there was a mistake or something, or if a link is broken, if it's not working anymore, um, reach out to us, me or Liv, and then we're going to help you update that link. And again, make sure that everything is like user friendly. If you want the jury to look at your website, again, like try to be specific or make sure that your website is most updated. And when you share additional information, also consider like what is like a holistic approach that you want the jury to look at your work. You know, like you need to be quick, but also you need to be holistic and like give them a lot of information and just like in a very condensed way. So think of what is really the holistic approach here. How do you want them to see this additional information and how it will actually impact their decision making? Okay. Uh, Now I'm gonna talk about the process and selection. We are almost done. We have one more slide, I think. Um, so for the process, the jurors are looking at your application, the application itself, all of the images and the links you provide, your CV or any other uploaded material, your biography, your artist statement. So jurors are looking for complete applications. And part of our role, me and Liv, that we just like go through all of the applications, make sure that all the applications are complete. If someone is missing something, we usually do send an email and say, and like make it clear that you are missing this link, or the link you uploaded is not working, or if you are missing a description of an image. So we do filter all of the applications and allow ourselves time to kind of reach out to you um, and hear back from you in a timely manner so we can pass this information to the jurors. So to do this kind of filtration process, we do have a deadline for that, which would be normally a week after the deadline ends. So if we send to you about something, then we would really appreciate if you respond to us quickly so we can get things ready for the jurors. We don't want to distract them and like kind of give them the information a bit by bit, because that will again might take away from your application review. How the juror evaluate your application, it's all based on reviewing everything together. It's not on the quality of the work only. It's also looking at your artist statement, the strength of your application, your practice in general. So there are so many elements when jurors kind of select for these type of exhibitions, like more kind of um, bigger exhibitions. Um, and at the same time, they look at the whole works together? How are they speaking to each other? And for example, last year, we did have kind of main themes that actually the jurors ended up highlighting somehow. So it's a kind of a natural process. But it's also the jurors are very mindful when they select the artworks. They they understand that this is a group exhibition. So in addition to like selecting each artist individually, there is also the group exhibition factor. So like this is not like it's not gonna be like a deal breaker that your work is in or out, but this is something, one of the many things that the juror might consider while evaluating each application. And um, again, it's not really about only the visual implication or like the visual component of your work. It's looking at your work in general, everything, writing, visual, conceptual, everything. So any information that you share with us does contribute to the evaluation of your application. As Liv and I mentioned earlier, that there is a kind of a limitation on audiovisual and large works, and they are mainly tied to space, like and equipment limitations or availability. We do tell the jurors that we have a maximum amount of audiovisual works that you can accept. And there is an X amount, of large works that we can accept due to, again, only the space limitations. So when you submit audio or visual or audiovisual or large artworks, there is a chance that it becomes really competitive. It depends on how many audiovisual artworks or like submissions that we receive. Sometimes it's not that many, sometimes it's a lot, and then we don't have that much space or we don't have like the proper equipment, so we kind of like really struggle. And we have a conversation maybe with the juror sometimes that like they need if they selected too many, then they need to narrow down their selection. So this is one of the things um that we can like go back to the juror and kind of negotiate. But again, it's only a space and equipment kind of dilemma or like problem. It's not really about the content of the work as much as it is space and space and equipment limitation. So,
Just to clarify what we have in our own equipment, we have a television, one,
yep,
and we have previously like rented projectors and speakers, but that's within like budget limitations and stuff. So just to give you an idea of what we have
yes,
already. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and then like I think why I'm mentioning it here in this slide again is just to point out that it becomes more competitive only because of the space limitations. But mentioning that, I don't mean that the chances of an audiovisual work or a large work getting accepted are becoming less. It's just becoming more challenging and more competitive. And again, like we are very honest, sharing that we do have a maximum limit. It varies every year. We still we still don't know how many applications are we gonna receive in total, and like how many artists will be accepted in total. Maybe we have more space for audiovisual works, maybe we have less space. Again, it really depends um, on the total number of applications, and again, like the jury decision and how many works to let in. Framing and shipping is one of the really challenging pieces for us as a team. as an exhibition coordinator, exhibition making team. Um, when we mention in our application that we need to know the specs and like the estimates for framing and shipping, that is to mainly save you and us and ourselves a lot of time, a lot of going back and forth, a lot of scrambling like at last minute to find a good price for framing or a good deal for framing or a good deal for shipping. So that's why we need to know in advance. If you have a very specific demands for framing, then you need to share this in the application. And it is better to get estimates early on so we can. So what happens every year, we allocate specific funds for each artist for framing and shipping, which is really tied to the budget. And it depends, not all of the artists need framing and shipping, but most of them do. So there was a lot of going back and forth, a lot of negotiating with the artists last year, which I found, quite challenging, to organize this just within less than a month because we need to get things framed and ready in advance at least 2 weeks before the exhibition opening. So, so this is really important to us to know in advance. So we know what we can offer, and we are going to be very honest with you. So after you are accepted and um, allocated, artist fees, framing and shipping fees, we're going to share the details of these funds with you and how they can be used. But if you let us know in advance what are the framing requirements, what are the shipping requirements, it's going to help us to maybe go back to you and say, oh, you know what? This is going to be very expensive. Like, do you want to work it another way? Or we don't have the capacity maybe to do this. Do you want to change your application? Do you want to submit another work? So it's really good to always have a conversation, and it's really important to have these this type of information in advance so we can start a conversation with you, check in with you, how we can do things, how we can make things work, whether or not like you get accepted. So again, we need to know this in advance so we can make an honest decision, and make an honest recommendation or advice to you. If this is really beyond our capacity, then maybe you need to change, maybe you need to cancel this application and submit another application that um, would be, like less challenging to implement for us. Um, and there is a maximum number of artists, as I mentioned earlier, and this is really depending on budget. So we have an artist fee. There is a certain amount that we usually follow the Carfax fees. However, we try to also accept as many artists. We try to follow the Carfax schedule as well. Sometimes it falls somewhere in between, but again, it is really something that our budget kind of has the upper hand in making that decision. What is the maximum number of artists that we can accept? Um, and this is again, like we communicate this to the jury. So we need to tell them that you cannot accept more than 30 artists or more than like 25 artists. So that becomes part of their process as well. Result notifications will be hopefully end of February, early March, hopefully the latest. But we will make sure to give you enough time before the exhibition opening. I would prefer, or like I would like to see the results notifications reaching you like a month and a half in advance or before the opening of the exhibition. But again, results notifications will be sent first to the accepted artists, and then we send to the rejected artists. But we did give a priority for the accepted ones so they can look at the contract, sign the contract, send like information for the catalog. So it's a whole other process that comes like after the result notification. So we are doing our best to let everyone know the result as soon as we can. Um, However, we are we are like also kind of hoping that everything will just go as we planned with the jurors, with the time frame that we have given them. Hopefully, everyone is available and um, they don't have any kind of urgencies during that period. Um, and this is Being Scene 25th anniversary. We are hoping and planning to have more gatherings, more reflections, more of bringing our Workman Arts community together, and hopefully um, we can be in the space at 32 Lisgar together for more time. I just want to like say that if you have um, kind of smaller gathering ideas or something that you want to reflect on, please feel free to share it with me. It's a big event this year, our 25th anniversary, and we want to celebrate it with you. So again, I'm open to any ideas, any like budget friendly or like any ideas that would simply bring our community together. It is much needed, and I hope we get to celebrate each other during that period of time, and for many, many, many years to come, another 25 years maybe. Uh, I will stop here, and we are ready to receive questions.